Hi, it's Keith Innovates here, and today I wanted to talk about the problem that blockchain wallet software has in keeping your private keys safe. So in a previous video I talked about what public and private keys were, and one of the big problems that we face with software is how do you make sure those keys are safe? Because if that private key is compromised or somebody else gets hold of it, then they can basically impersonate you and do whatever they like with all the funds that you have in your blockchain addresses. So we've seen a lot of problems historically with this. For example, in Bitcoin, the private keys were kept in a file called wallet.dat, and round about 2012 or 13, I think it was, hackers found out about this. The wallet.dat file wasn't encrypted, and as a result, if they managed to get access to your computer by hacking it, they started looking for wallet.dat files, extracting the private key, constructing the public key from it, and submitting Bitcoin transactions that allowed them to basically drain all your funds. When it comes to keeping private keys private, it's really tough. I mean, there are techniques that hackers can use to not just get them out of files or try and crack encrypted files that contain them. They can even, in some circumstances, siphon them out of memory. And then there are also clever techniques whereby they compromise your machine, and when you are filling in stuff in your software or in a web browser, they actually spot that you've put in an address that you're sending the funds to, and they swap it out for their own address. So there's lots of nefarious things that they can do, and it's the job of a good security analyst or a computer security programmer to make sure that these things can't happen. So I mentioned some of the techniques there. Make sure that the key stays in memory as briefly as possible. Make sure that it's stored somewhere that's encrypted. But then you end up with all sorts of usability problems, which is if you've got the key encrypted in a file, there needs to be a password to unlock it, and that becomes another vulnerability. And so ultimately the only real way to keep your private key truly safe is basically to print it out on a piece of paper, make sure you generate it on a machine that's not connected to the internet, print it out on a piece of paper, and then wipe the machine that you created it with, so that there's no way of using that machine to subsequently generate it again. And this is called cold storage, but it comes with a whole bunch of problems as well. What do you do with that piece of paper or pieces of paper? Do you stick them in a safe? Do you stick them under your mattress? Anyway, it's a tricky business, and I don't envy the people whose job it is to work on this, because it's a thankless job as well. If you get it right, nobody notices. If you get it wrong, everybody's up in arms. Anyway, there you go. A brief post about protecting private keys, why it's important, and some of the difficulties that are faced by people who deal with this issue. Bye for now. See you in the next video.